Deputy Prime Minister Tharman has delivered his wrap-up speech on Budget 2012, focusing on how the government tackles the challenge of income inequality. He also reassured SMEs that the government will help them transform over the next decade to raise productivity, income and living standards for all Singaporeans. Mr. Tharman was replying to more than 60 MPs who took part in a 3-day budget debate this week.
Singapore's economic and social strategies are closely bound, says Mr. Tharman. Hence, the budget is core to the strategy to tackle income inequality. He said first, the strategy must be to grow the incomes of all Singaporeans. Second, to tackle income inequality by redistributing to provide significant benefits for the lower income, yet without placing excessive taxes on the middle income.
This is a very important feature of our tax system, which is not widely recognized, that our taxes for our middle income group are much lower than most countries. If you don't own a car, even as a middle income Singaporean, you get back $1.50 for every dollar tax you pay over your lifetime. And for those who want to have a car for the convenience or because they have a large family or with elderly persons that need ferrying around, it's still a very fair system. There are very few systems where for every dollar of tax you pay, you get 80 cents back over your lifetime for the average household.
As concerns the middle income were being squeezed, Mr. Tharman produced figures which showed real incomes have risen, with median households seeing the most significant growth. He said a key challenge to sustaining a fair and progressive tax system is healthcare spending, which will be the biggest driver in the increase in expenditure over the next 10 to 20 years. But what's core is that spending has to be sustainable and not a burden to future generations. Mr. Tharman rejected calls to spend more on a first world social safety net by the Workers' Party and Chairman Sylvia Lim's suggestion to increase spending on healthcare to 6.1% of GDP as in the OECD. Instead, he said, the focus should be on outcomes. By 2016, healthcare spending would go up by 2% of GDP, and by 2030, around 3.5% of GDP. And to help the lower income, the government must target subsidies, yet not to a level that it would be a disincentive to work.
Target the subsidies where they are most needed. There will be a need for subsidies. There will be groups that have affordability problems, and we should help them with subsidies. But target it where it is most needed and not broadly or across the board. And in particular, which is what we are doing in this year's budget and going forward.
As for challenges faced by SMEs, Mr. Tharman acknowledged the operating environment is tough, with concerns regarding labour costs and cost of space. On its part, the government will help SMEs to raise productivity and invest in jobs. This meant training in skills, developing new products and brands, and finding new niche markets abroad. SMEs and businesses are also concerned about the foreign worker quota policy, and Mr. Tharman assured them that they remain integral to the economy. He also said that the government is not turning off the tap or implementing a cold turkey treatment when it comes to the foreign worker policy.
We're extremely concerned about our SMEs, which you rightly all emphasized. Too quick a withdrawal of foreign workers will hurt our SMEs and they won't be able to cope with the pace of change. But if we are too slow in tightening on foreign worker policies, the incentive to upgrade will also be lessened. And we will face, as Mr. Lim Swee says, even bigger and longer-term problems further down the road.